Out of all the projectile zoners, Toon Link has one of the greatest ground speeds and ground mobility, which gives him the ability to evade and escape the opponent easier than other zoners. He's all about option coverage, traps, evasiveness, and zoning opponents out with projectiles. There's also a big focus on ground control, as his dash speed is really fast. He's a floaty middleweight, which allows him to get out of combos early, but landing can become a struggle. He can play around with his mobility and projectiles to safely stay out of harm's way and try to create openings. If a projectile hits from far away, he can approach with his fast ground speed, but back out immediately if it doesn't work out the way he planned. Even more helpful for this are his rolls and spot dodge, which are some of the fastest in the game. Toon Link struggles against playstyles that are very bait and punish heavy at close range due to his poor frame data and mediocre boxing game. So it's best for Toon Link to keep the opponents busy with his projectiles and approach whenever he gets an opening with them. His grab game is also a bit lacking, as his throws deal poor damage and only lead to potential traps rather than guaranteed percentage. Projectiles are Toon Link's primary tools, as his Master Sword doesn't really provide any strong openings. They're used to frustrate and manipulate the opponent from a distance. They can bait forth approaches and trap opponents as they overextend, meaning you also create openings as the opponent is trying to hunt you down. They are excellent at punishing whiffs and can safely add damage from a distance in order for Toon Link's kill throw to be successful. A projectile does not necessarily need to connect in order for you to gain an advantage, as simply having the opponent shielding or avoiding the projectile by jumping can already put the opponent in a bad position. The most important thing about projectiles, however, is to understand how to use them during the advantage stage, to cover and limit options only to punish the remaining ones left, and keep trapping opponents. The bow and arrow is Toon Link's third priority projectile. The longer you charge, the more speed, damage, and knockback they will achieve. You can turn around special, B-reverse, and wave bounce, which are all good for mixing up your landing. You can also edge cancel the arrows. Uncharged arrows can be used to add just a little bit of extra damage from a distance, while at the same time poke and pressure the opponent into putting up their shield or jumping. They can potentially catch landings, and since they travel kind of slowly, Toon Link can also try running in with them to grab opponents or hopefully get under them to start traps. They're also used to pressure opponents off stage, to force double jumps or air dodges, and punish low recoveries with bombs. They can be used to reset opponents that miss a tech, which is called an arrow lock. They can also cause the opponent to ledge slip if you hit it right. Boomerang is the second priority projectile since it's more versatile and grants bigger rewards. Just like arrows, the boomerang can be B-reversed and wave bounce, which can aid Toon Link's landing and baiting. You can do a soft and a hard throw depending on whether you tilt or smash the input. You can preemptively throw it upwards or downwards to cover full hops, or throw it slightly downwards or upwards to cover short hops. You can dash backwards and throw the boomerang to stuff approaches. However, the boomerang is mostly used to punish whiffs. Compared to the other projectiles, Boomerang comes out kind of slow. However, it's relatively safe unless the opponent is already at too close range. There is a close range Boomerang, which deals 8% and provides the most amount of hit stun in true combos. A mid-range Boomerang, which deals 5% and can potentially create openings as it puts the opponent in a bad situation. You could pick up a bomb as they are being launched, however the best response would be to rush in and try to punish them for either air dodging, landing with an attack, double jumping, or teching at higher percents. Even though it's really far away, Toon Link can rush in and potentially take advantage of the boomerang connecting, and if it doesn't, he can simply back off. If you're already holding a bomb, you'll be able to trap the opponents and punish much easier than if you didn't have one to begin with. Ideally, the best response as the boomerang connects at closer range at lower percentage is to rush under the opponent and either get an up smash or perfect pivot up tilt, as the up smash will either lead into more up tilts or force a double jump, which can be punished with up air, or you can try to cover the opponent's landing. The returning boomerang does 3% and has set knockback, which allows for consistent combos at all percentage. It can also break combos, trap opponents, and lead to kill confirms, and so it has to be respected as it's one of Toon Link's best tools. The boomerang can also lead to additional shield pressure. The best response as the boomerang comes back is usually jab, tilts, arrows, and especially ZREO, as it perfectly launches them into the boomerang and combos into up smash or aerials. The boomerang can also be used to 2-frame opponents, and if it misses, you'll still have a returning boomerang to work with. Bombs are Toon Link's #1 priority projectile, and it's generated at frame 17 from the moment you press down B. It takes the bomb approximately 5 seconds before it explodes. If you Z-drop the bomb, it'll become active at frame 1. Bombs are great as an out-of-shield option, as it's quick, safe, and covers a good amount of distance. The bomb will blow up after it absorbs 6% damage or more. This allows the bomb to negate extremely strong projectiles, as well as it goes through the weaker ones. If you throw a bomb on the opponent's shield, it will bounce on their shield, allowing you to re-catch it and re-throw it. Counting from the first frame of the bomb pull animation, if you throw the bomb on the opponent's shield on frame 223 or later, the bomb will be inactive from the moment it touches the shield and will remain inactive. However, if the bomb is shielded on frame 222 or sooner, the bomb will become active at frame 223 and will remain active until it explodes, making the bomb an extra obstacle. If the bomb comes in contact with an enemy hurt box, it will explode on the following frame. However, it will explode on frame 1 upon contact with the surface. Depending on positioning, weight, percentage, and so on, the bomb will pretty much combo into anything, as it's Toon Link's primary combo tool. If the bomb detects a hurt box, it'll explode for 4%. However, if the opponent doesn't get hit by the bomb, but rather the explosion itself, depending on how fast the bomb was traveling, the explosion will deal anything from 3 to 8%. Even if the bomb doesn't hit, it can force the opponent into a defensive option, limiting their options in general. Only pick up a bomb when it's safe and beneficial. You never want to be too busy picking up a bomb when you could have taken advantage of the opponent already being in a terrible situation. Even just holding on to a bomb and moving around with it will have the opponent respect you more in the neutral. It's extremely important to always keep track of what the opponent usually does after shielding a bomb, as all options can essentially be read and punished. After a short hop buffered bomb pull, you can still double jump. You can Z-drop a bomb 2 frames before landing, and at the first frame of landing. However, once the bomb is completely still on the ground, it won't pose as a threat to the opponent. And so you can short hop, buffer a bomb pull, and Z-drop the bomb to plant it. You can press Z at the first frame after your jump squat and the ZREO won't come out. You can Z-drop it during tumble, Z-drop it during the first airborne frame following dropping through a platform. You can buffer a Z-drop out of the last 10 frames of an aerial, a footstool, or a ledge jump, which is incredibly useful. It also works after a trump. If you air dodge and ZREO, you'll keep the bomb. However, you will still suffer the air dodge landing lag, unless you grab the ledge. Here, you can either ledge jump bomb throw into a combo, or time the explosion perfectly together with a ledge option, so that during a regular get up or a roll, the bomb explodes with good timing, giving you a potential advantage. You can zare the ledge with a bomb in hand, then tilt the analog stick down to cancel the tether to drop a bomb. Jump cancelled throws are Toon Link's primary way of creating an opening. You can jump cancel a throw by pressing jump and cancelling the jump by immediately throwing the bomb. If you throw it while gliding, you can re-catch the bomb. You can jump and throw it behind you to catch it as well, which allows you to pressure with aerials while still cooking up the bomb. You can re-catch the bomb in the air with an aerial, air dodge, or grab. And if you catch it with an air dodge or grab, you can immediately C-stick towards a direction to throw it as you catch it. And so you can soft throw a bomb upwards, short hop, buffer a bomb pull, double jump and immediately throw a bomb, air dodge or grab a bomb and immediately throw it forward, to essentially throw 2 bombs forward. This also works with smashing the bomb upwards and full hopping. Hero's shield blocks almost any projectile, and will work whenever Toon Link stands, crouches, or walks slowly. If he walks fast or turns around during his idle animation, the shield won't block. Blocking with the hero's shield can be a bit more beneficial than perfect shielding, as it allows you to move sooner after blocking most of the time. You can still aim a projectile to play around the hero's shield. Jab is a quick option to get the opponent off of you. Once the opponent hits Toon Link's shield and tries to bait out a grab, the jab will punish the spot dodge. The third jab is relatively unsafe against shields. However, the first jab is a bit safer and can be used to poke at shields, especially since you also have a second jab to intercept them. The inner hitbox launches away, while the tipper pops them upwards. There are a couple of mix-ups you can perform, however it's very dependent on percentage, character weight, and positioning. These mix-ups can be risky, as they can be escaped most of the time. However, they do become more and more guaranteed the more rage Toon Link has. The first hit of jab can also catch certain 2-frames, and punish some hanging opponents. Combining perfect pivoting with your first jab will help you stuff out approaches. Down tilt is safe if you space it at max range and is good at poking shields. It has more horizontal range than jab 1 and 2, and is almost equal in range with forward tilt. That'll hit the opponents into the ground at low percents, and slowly get a higher angle as the knockback increases. It won't combo into anything, unless it trips. This move will force a tech situation at specific percents. Up tilt can be pretty safe if crossed up, and is Toon Link's main way of starting juggles at close range. Juggling with up tilts is usually the best situation for Toon Link to be in, as it'll always lead into good damage and covering landings after the damage you've dealt. It's also one of Toon Link's main ways of scoring kills, as a single up tilt can lead into a kill confirm or 50-50s with the up air. Finding openings for up tilt can be pretty difficult, so it is really important for Toon Link to keep track of the opponent's roll habits in order to punish them as much as possible, as well as having a good projectile game in order to force rolls and jumps. Once the opponent commits to a jump, ground control becomes really important. Forward tilt is mostly used in combination with a pivot to further wall out an opponent, as it's safe if spaced at max range. This move will force a tech situation at specific percents. All 3 tilts can 2-frame. Dash attack is mostly a quick option to cover landings whenever up tilt or up smash won't work. It doesn't lead into any true combos. However, it launches them perfectly to cover their landing, since if they don't double jump, they'll get hit by a bomb, grab, up smash, and so on. And if they do, Toon Link is fast enough to cover the landing and keep them airborne without their double jump. ZREO to dash attack is a good option against floaties, and against other characters it can also be the only follow-up after a well-spaced ZREO. Up smash is disjointed enough to catch landings pretty well and will usually beat or trade against most options. It has a weaker hit behind Toon Link that kills much later. Generally speaking, the up smash isn't a safe option. However, it becomes slightly safer if you cross up with the back hit. Down smash is Toon Link's fastest but weakest smash attack. It launches the opponent behind Toon Link. However, if you get hit by the tipper, you can DI downwards and tech. There's also a hitbox that sends airborne opponents upwards. Forward smash is Toon Link's strongest attack and can kill really early. It's mostly used to hard punish slow moves and air dodges that you've baited out. Both the hits are not safe on shield no matter how you space it. You can foxtrot and forward smash to punish techs. Forward air is Toon Link's safest rising aerial, as it's safe against shield at max range if you space yourself back. It's relatively safe if you land with it at max range against shields. It's Toon Link's only aerial that he can double jump out of in a short hop. He can also down air as a rare mix-up. This aerial is mostly used, however, to kill confirm, so it's advised to keep it fresh until you can kill. Back air is Toon Link's safest landing aerial, as it actually has good range. It's also a bit less safe if it's buffered. Back air can be used to punish opponents DIing towards Toon Link, as it'll send the opponent almost upwards at that point. The optimal way of DIing back air is by holding down and away. This aerial is mostly used to simply cover your back and potentially stuff out aerial approaches. Down air can be used as a rare mix-up to punish opponents below you, and establish that they have to play a bit more respectfully with shield as they're under you. Generally though, it's a very unsafe option. There are some small exceptions however. If the down air hits on top of a tall opponent's shield and they grab or release immediately, they'll get pushed back, making it safe. This windbox can rarely be used to gimp. The down air will spike at frame 17 to 25, and the rest will just launch upwards. Once you commit to a down air, you will fall straight down. And if it hits, you can start adjusting your drift. You can also immediately down air out of hit stun, or double jump out of hit stun and immediately down air to stall in the air as a mix-up. It can reset opponents at really low percentage. Other than that, this move can be used after a footstool, to combo break with the landing hitbox, or to punish opponents holding down while recovering. Up air is for covering options above you, as it'll beat out most attacks and lasts long enough to punish air dodges. You can full hop, buffer the up air, and fast fall to auto-cancel the move, which allows you to further trap opponents with up tilt, jab, or dash attack, just in case you didn't punish the air dodge. Since it usually will beat out air dodges in attacks however, it will force double jumps, which essentially is what you want, as you've then limited the opponent to landing, which you can cover with dash attack, grab, boomerang, or up smash to keep them from gaining back the double jump. Neutral air is Toon Link's quickest attack together with jab, and so it can be used as an out-of-shield option. It has less landing lag than forward air, so it's recommended to use neutral air just after buffered forward air to have less landing lag. Landing with it at long range is relatively safe, while buffering it is a bit more punishable. At mid percentage, it sends at a low angle for tech chase scenarios. It can also reset opponents. There's a back hit that can be used to cover your back and can combo into back air. On some bigger targets, you can connect both hits of neutral air after an up tilt to extend your combo even further. This aerial is generally used defensively as a quick poke against shields and for simple damage. ZREO is mostly used as a shield conditioner from afar. If you land at close range, it won't be safe. The only time it's safe is if you defensively zone yourself back during. It can potentially be used as a way back to stage, as well as it can snipe double jumps back to stage. Spin attack is mainly used as an out-of-shield option, as it's one of Toon Link's fastest option to get the opponent off of him. However, most of the time it's better to either just keep holding shield, roll to safety, or jump away, as the spin attack is still kind of a slow option. In fact, the fastest option for close range pressure is footstooling out of shield, or in some rare cases jumping and immediately Z-dropping the bomb. It can potentially be used to cover regular get up attack, or roll. However, it's a bit of a hard commitment, unless you're holding a bomb. in which case you can potentially kill confirm. You can reverse the spin attack off stage to potentially catch the opponents off guard and punish them for trying to edge guard you. Toon Link, much like other option coverage characters, has a ton of different traps for different types of situations, usually involving bomb setups, returning boomerangs, and arrows that bait air dodges. His throws can lead to some simple and interesting traps, and his ledge trapping game is actually really good. If you up-throw the opponent, you can immediately up-air to punish attacks and air dodges, and so it can force double jumps. Once they do double jump, you can fast fall and cover the landing. At a bit higher percentage, you can up-throw, jump, and double jump with an up-air to cover the opponent's double jump. This can also be fast fallen to cover landings in case the up-air misses. Then you can also short hop and buffer an air dodge to potentially dodge attacks and punish with back air or up-air. This can also force double jumps on some characters. Up throw to up air can also combo on very few characters at very specific percents. If the opponent DI is behind Toon Link, it becomes harder to get, as most of the time you'll have to start by dashing backwards and immediately using up air. For in-depth information on when this combo works against specific characters, check out the link in the description below. Forward throw usually launches opponents out for ledge guards and ledge traps, as aggressive double jumps back to the stage can easily be punished. Back throw is Toon Link's kill throw. Down throw to Boomerang can condition double jumps, since attack or air dodge will most likely get punished, and once they do double jump, you can focus on catching landings or ledge trapping. There's many ways to ledge trap the opponent. Tethered Trumping is extremely useful for scoring kills, as you can simply punish a trumped opponent with back air or bomb. Then you can tether, buffer a regular get up, and punish rolls with up smash or back throw. Same thing with get up attack. To punish ledge jumps, you can ledge jump yourself and either punish with down air or up air. With safe, max range down tilt, you can pressure the opponent's shield, follow up with jab or neutral air to intercept punishes, punish rolls with up tilt, and jumps with aerials, or by covering landings. ZREO is one of Toon Link's best moves to counter regular get-ups, get-up attacks, and double jumps back to stage, as it's active for 10 frames. It can also potentially counter rolls. Boomerang can be good to counter regular get-ups, get-up attack, ledge jumps, and potentially double jumps, and rolls get hard punished by up tilt or forward smash. You can preemptively throw it to use it in combination with the trumping, or make use of the returning boomerang with ZREO. The boomerang itself can condition forth shields, or make the opponent stall at the ledge, which opens up opportunities for Tethered Trumping. If you don't want to commit to ZREO, you've still got jab, max ranged up tilt, neutral air, and spin attack out of shield that can potentially work. Once you really launch the opponent and there's enough time, you can include soft thrown or smash thrown bombs upwards, either before or after a soft thrown or smash thrown boomerang to create even more traps. If you want to influence what character should be next in the series, check out the link in the description below. And if you enjoyed this video, make sure to subscribe and share it to all of your friends.